Good evening and welcome to the Milford Planning Board meeting of Tuesday, September 5th, 2023, Room 3, Milford Town Hall. The meetings are on Milford TV, so we are live. With that, I'll open the meeting and entertain a motion for the meeting minutes that were sent out to all members for our August 15th meeting.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Motion by Chris to accept the meeting minutes from the meeting. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Seconded by Babe. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor of accepting the meeting minutes as presented to us will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 4. Goes to Larry.
Of course.
Just a couple housekeeping things before we get into our agenda, just so we can get them out of the way. For those members, the Attorney General's office did respond. There were 3 articles on the May 22nd, 2023 town meeting. As all of you know, those have to go to the Attorney General's for final acceptance, and they have written back saying that they approved Articles 17, 19, and 21, and the map attachments related to Article 17 from the meeting. So those now are part of our zoning bylaw. The other thing, just to have, there's obviously nothing that we can, it's not a planning board issue at this point, but we did receive a letter from a resident at Milford Country Club questioning the use of funds up there as regards to certain areas. Well, apparently not happy with some of the building issues that are there. I would assume this may have gone to the building inspector, Larry, or no?
It was an email. I can't remember whether he was CC'd or not, but
I would just say,
he'll get it.
Yeah, can you just check to make sure that the building inspector, I mean, at this point, it's the building inspector's. If there's a building issue, he needs to evaluate it. There's nothing before the board at this point in time, and certainly it's not up to this board to determine how the trustees of Milford Country Club spend their money. So unless there's a building issue, it's sort of out of our hands. With that, we'll go to the this 81Ps. The first one we have is Milford East Main Street LLC, 158 East Main Street.
This is a simple lot split to create parcels that are basically referenced in an environmental document. It might have been able to be done by 81X, but at 81P is probably preferable. It's easier to track. So it's endorsable and submitted.
Where are the parcels, Larry, just to...
This is Meehan's property,
Oh, yep,
158 East Main.
yep. Any questions from the board? Good evening, Ted, by the way.
Good evening.
Hearing no questions, do I have a motion?
A motion. Accept the 81P.
Motion by Chris to accept, to have Larry sign the 81P?
Yes.
These aren't land court plans, we can have them.
Second.
Seconded by Ted. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
4 in favor, 1 abstention. Babe was the abstention. Second 81P is BD Homes LLC, 37 Mount Pleasant Street.
Again, this is a simple lot split, severing the rear portion of a house lot that fronts on Mount Pleasant to add to the adjacent properties for future development purposes. It's endorsable as submitted.
Questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we sign the plan.
Motion by Babe to have Larry sign the 81P. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chris. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 5. Next thing on the agenda is the deliberation for the self-storage special permit application. Larry did send out, and it's in our package, the special, yeah, Joe, you can, at this point, you don't really have to leave, seeing how the public hearing has closed, Joe, just so you know.
Okay.
Larry has sent out the special permit decision as it currently stands. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant just to go over, again, this is not part of a public hearing, but we did have some outstanding issues as part of that and some changes that we wanted to see as part of our last go-through, that if you could just go over the current state of the plans, just to bring us back as to where we are.
Absolutely. Mark Allen with Allen Engineering Associates, here on behalf of Quick Nolan, Old Cedar LLC with Neil Bingham. A couple of the comments that were raised at the last meeting have been addressed. They revolve around stormwater. Basically, the question came about getting all of the infiltration into the subsurface in open-air drainage basins. So the drainage basin that was previously in this location here underneath the driveway and the future bike path, that has been expanded from 48 chambers to 80 chambers. And therefore, we took the outlet control structure off so that in all storms up to the 100-year storm event, both the open-air basin will infiltrate and the underground chambers will infiltrate, therefore not creating any point source discharge even after the 100-year storm event. That's sort of the greatest thing of record. One minor item is there was a Zone A and Zone B delineation from Mass GIS that was asked to sort of be put on the plan, and that Zone A kind of shows the Zone A that is associated with the surface water supply, and the Zone B is out of the surface water supply. So those have been added to the plans for your information.
Thank you. Liz, did you have a chance to look at the drainage that changes in those?
Yeah, I still, I'm happy with what's there. I think it's going to work as far as no changes to the site plan. And then by the, before we have the next conservation meeting at the end of the month, I may have them tweak some calculations. Through them.
Okay.
Yeah, I think on sheet C3 as well, and it might even show on that, the gates, the security gates are clearly shown in the locations that were discussed, as well as the security fencing. So that's all up to date.
Yes.
Coincides with the decision.
So there's gates on both sides to,
There's a gate on this side, and then there's a gate on that side.
and those are the card reader gates? Is that the type of?
It's either going to be CAD reader or pad. Yeah.
Pen or digit codes.
Yeah,
And no garage doors
yeah,
on
there's
that.
no garage doors on that side of the building.
Correct. Yep.
And I did discuss in some detail with the commission about the testing. They were comfortable with what is in this, and so it'll be mirrored in the order of conditions as well.
So that's for those members is, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that's one testing a year in both areas, and it's in the spring. The dates are given in the decision, but it's in the early spring.
Yeah, I think the way the decision is drafted that's in front of you has the sampling in the westerly well of the large basin between March and April. But it's annually. Should be condition number 4.
Correct.
But as Liz says, that's not going to conflict with anything that Concom's going to do. Even if they do beyond that, it still won't conflict.
Any questions from the board, especially as it relates to the special permit and,
Go ahead, Jim. As long as Larry and Liz are okay with what has been updated. I mean, the last meeting, water issue on both those sites were concerning, and it seems it's been addressed to include the 100-year flood, which I think is awesome. So I have no further questions.
Babe?
The only question I have is with the extension of the walking trail. You're not going to keep that open during construction. You just,
What was it, though?
I think it was conditioned that it be usable by the end of construction.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Right.
By the end.
Right.
I know it was brought up, not by us, but it was brought up.
Yeah.
And again, it's something that in the construction business, you can't do it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there probably is a way to do some temporary walking paths around there, but I don't believe that considering people that are using it now are using it illegal, I don't think, you know.
I mean, the chances are
Yeah.
you're probably going to fence most of it in anyway as you're doing it, so.
Yeah, why would you want the general public in a construction zone?
Well, let me tell you,
Well,
Some people just go there.
I've been out there and they do it.
anything else? Anything?
No, I'm just happy to see the comprehensive list of prohibited substances, and then, the annual testing between March 1st and April 30th, so it's good to see.
Applicant have any questions or any comments on what was written in the findings and,
We've had a chance to review the findings and the conditions, and we're in agreement with them.
anything further? We had closed the public hearing and taken it under advisement, so we have to move forward.
I
from
make
that
the
point.
motion, we approve the site plan.
I second that amendment.
And a special permit.
Grant a special permit, yeah.
Motion by Babe to approve the site plan and special permit, seconded by Ted. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 4 with 1 abstention. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Lock it in with the clerk first thing in the morning.
A dozen times a day.
Oh, no. I felt bad.
Next thing on the agenda is the continued amended site plan for 146 South Main Street, New York Capital Investment Group. We have a letter in front of us that they're kindly requesting a continuance to our meeting scheduled for 10/17/23. The reason for the request is to prepare the traffic study, which we had requested previously when we heard this.
And they have gotten a sewer letter, so now it's just waiting on their traffic consultant.
Do I have a motion to accept the request for the extension to the 17th?
A motion?
Motion by Chris. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous at 5, so we'll be seeing them on October 17th. Continued amended site plan for 100 Central Street, David Walsh. We have a letter in front of us that the applicant is requesting to
Withdraw without prejudice.
withdraw without prejudice the application that was in front of us previously.
Yeah, he was denied at the sewer board, and they have a new, different use that he'll be submitting tomorrow, so.
Any questions? Do I hear a motion to grant the request to the application without prejudice?
Thanks.
Withdraw?
I make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Babe, seconded by Ted. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous at 5. amended site plan for 393 Fortune Boulevard, Legal Seafood.
Finally, it's something you can approve.
I'll paraphrase Larry's letter into the, for the record. The applicant requests amended site plan approval for a change of use in a portion of the building on the subject property. The existing facility contains 92,000 square feet on a one-story steel-framed building with an attached 24,160 square foot two-story office building. Proposal is to construct a 26,549-foot food preparation and storage facility within the one-story portion of the building.
There we go.
Minor exterior modifications are proposed within the previously disturbed areas, including the installation of a 5,000-gallon below-ground grease trap, concrete equipment pad, and associated utilities. The proposal will employ 30 staff with operating hours Monday through Friday, all in one shift. Clock distribution, the current tenant will continue to occupy the remaining space in the building under its current conditions. The current site has 106 parking spaces and is connected to both town water and sewer. Larry's recommendation is approval of amended site plan. We have a letter from the fire department. They had no comment. We have a letter from the Board of Sewer Commissioners. The data was incomplete. The board indicated their willingness and support for working with the potential new business at the location. So they're still in the process of reviewing.
They sent a second letter to
Oh,
me.
sorry.
I was like, wait a second, this
Very last one.
is a joke?
The
Yeah.
last one, it's at the end of the packet.
It's like, he said he was going to send a nice one.
Yeah, you
I think Larry did that on
approved it.
purpose, too, then put it at the end.
All right.
Did you find it?
No.
Yeah.
Give him mine.
So we have another letter from the board dated August 30th. The Board of Sewer Commissioners voted at their 29th meeting to approve the amended site plan for Clark Capital Legal Seafoods, 393 Fortune Boulevard. Highway Department had no comments that any road opening permits, trench permits have to be obtained from the Highway Department, but that doesn't really apply in this one. There was no real comments from the Water Department other than their standard. If you're doing anything with the Water Department, you got to talk to them firsthand and use materials that are approved by them. And that's it for letters. With that, I'll turn it over to the applicant for a presentation.
We pretty much covered everything. So Legal Seafoods, they're proposing to take over about 26,500 square feet, plus or minus, of that building for quality control, for a quality control center. So it's food processing and food processing and storage for legal seafood facilities around the state. So they'll have a little bit of an office space over here, roughly, anywhere from 250 to 500 square feet, and then the rest is all warehouse employees or manufacturing, food processing in that area. They'll have several different rooms in there, one shift, and parking at most at one time is about 30 employees. So. And Clark Distribution will continue to operate in the remaining portion of the buildings, and they still have their office space up front, and then they have the remaining areas warehouse.
Questions from the board?
Well, the only thing I say if you're digging up the parking lot, if you can, try to put some conduit in for electric charging stations. It's a coming thing, and if you're gonna dig it up, you might as well put some conduit in. Don't have to put the wires in, just do it. It's cheaper for you in the end, so. Yeah. Well, as long as the sewer board's happy with this. Is there a manhole coming out of the grease trap?
Yes, there's
Is that going to have a test port in it?
yes, there's going to be a manhole right outside
Yeah.
of the grease trap, so it'll go grease trap, and then we've.
They'll have a sump in it?
Yep, we've talked with the sewer commissioners, and we're going to be sampling once it gets in full operation.
Okay.
we'll have some sampling.
Well, because they require the BOD testing,
Yes.
so.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else? Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Motion by Joe to approve the amended site plan. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ted. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 5. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about the sewer letter, they just sent it today.
I don't know, it must be hiding in my packet.
Last
That was
page.
the way it was in the bottom of the plan.
It's got the
There
red
it
ink
is.
on it, Joe.
Sorry.
The wedding,
Red ink.
That's what we're here for.
Item 7, Gomes Way definitive plan, conditional approval contract, endorsed definitive plan, Mylars.
Yeah, I think we'll need to pass over that one.
Pass on
It's
that?
not ready. Should be
don't have stuff.
ready, should be ready next meeting.
There is, it was,
Okay. I got 8.
yep. Mount Pleasant Estates, certificate of performance.
Yeah, this, I thought had already been done, but nobody can find it. So I included all the supporting documentation we used the last time, and request that you vote on it again.
It got lost between when Mike ended and I started,
It's your fault.
taking full responsibility.
Well, if we got the 242 grand out of it, I mean,
Exactly.
So where are we with this one right now, Larry? Where are they with the subdivision in terms of,
It's proceeded.
well, the lots, yeah,
It's just that this, now that they're needing to be able to transfer ownership
Another one, yeah.
of the houses,
It seems pretty likely that there's been additional work done.
yeah, that's what I was
That
wondering,
They
but
could be going for a
reduction in bond?
reduction, but at this point, they're just looking to get the signature for what.
So we still hold the bond that it was at that time?
Yes.
yeah, so this one, if you vote it again, you will need to sign it, please. We'll try not to lose it this time.
Any questions from the members of the board? No. Do I hear a motion to sign the lot releases?
I make a motion that we sign the law releases.
Certificate of performance, actually, but both. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Babe. Motion was by Ted. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 5. You can
Thank you.
we'll send it down this.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
I did.
Motion by Ted.
Yep.
Who
Babe seconded.
Okay, thank you.
ZBA special permit, Andolfo Company, 39 Green Street. The applicant requests special permit approval to allow for the continued use of the existing drive-through car wash on the subject property. The prior 2016 special permit for this site was granted to the applicant, Green Street Auto Spa only, and did not run with the land. See attached decision. Subsequently, the current operator acquired the business, did not seek amendment to the special permit, and also proceeded to modify the site in violation of the approved site plan by adding a vacuum station in the queuing lane. The applicant now seeks to remedy all past violations by seeking the special permit for the current operator and by revising the site features to return the queuing lane to an appropriate, safe configuration. The original approved queuing lanes are to be restored, vacuum stations relocated to the rear of the building, and a subsequent area of excess paving is to be removed and replaced with landscaping. Larry recommends approval.
Yeah, they're actually improving the site because they're getting rid of the pavement that runs right down to some of the adjacent possibly wetlands to the west. But if you look at the aerial photo, the last sheet in the little packet there, you can see that the 8 vacuum spaces that are lined up against the east side of the building, and the only way to get to them is through the only queue lanes. And they had eliminated one of the queue lanes to put the vacuums in. So, yeah, just totally screwed it up. So now it's going to go back the way it should have been, and they'll have, hopefully, a special permit.
Any comments from the board?
So did they put the vacuums in without permit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Of course. But that was like 4 years
That
ago.
was a while ago.
5 years ago. Huh. Lot of enforcement.
Yeah, my only concern to a certain extent was the noise, but the properties above or higher, I don't think there's really a real good line of sight from where they are anyways, and that distance is no different than the illegal vacuums to the people to the
To the other side.
side now, and then we haven't heard any complaints there, so I don't foresee there being an issue.
Yeah, those vacuums are pretty quiet now.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are going to be newer units as well, so that's any consolation.
We have a motion.
I make a motion, we send a favorable recommendation. Zoning
Board
board.
makes a motion to send a favorable recommendation to the zoning board of appeals. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Chris. Any further discussion? Hearing not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 5. CBA variance request, William Rowe, 234 Purchase Street, map 13, block 0, lots 3B and 7. The applicant requests variance to allow for the combination and reconfiguration of the subject parcels. Variance for lot width, lot frontage, and lot shape factor will be necessary to create the 2 proposed lots. Proposed Lot A will contain the existing dwelling. Proposed Lot B will become a building lot for a new dwelling. Parcel A will become a landlocked, non-buildable parcel to the rear of the property. I recommend a favorable report be forwarded to the Zoning Board of Appeals. There's a picture, I believe, in the back of the packet. It shows the reconfiguration.
Yeah, I kind of got the impression that new parcel A, the new landlocked parcel way to the west and back, is going to be made available potentially for the adjacent property owner back there, Asloya. So that might get sold off, but right now they need to do the split this way to reconfigure the front part to have 2 buildable lots instead of 1.
I mean, again, I see no hardship in this. I mean, it is what it is, you know. I'm sure they'll end up with the 2 lots, but I don't understand what the hardship is. They didn't have 2 lots. I don't know why the town should be giving them 2 lots now. It's just my own opinion. You know, when you're asking for 3 variances to get a lot, that sort of tells me you didn't have 2 lots to begin with. And considering the amount of wetlands it appears on that other parcel, I'm not sure it's the best idea in the world, but
I agree with you, Joe, except the only positive thing about it, again, it's a family lot, it's a family parcel that's been owned for years by the same family, so it's the only good thing
anyone else have any comments?
Nope.
Pleasure of the board.
Make a motion to send a favorable recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Motion by Chris to send a favorable recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Seconded by Ted. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? I'm unopposed. What were you, do I have two abstentions here, or do I have,
No,
what were you, babe? Yes or no?
yes.
Yes, that's 3 in favor. Joe?
Yes.
4 in favor, 1 opposed. ZBA special permit, Daniel Ribeiro, 13 Dominic Street, map 42, block 0, lot 314, RA zone. The applicant requests special permit approval to allow for the reconstruction of a single-family dwelling on the subject property. The lot is non-conforming as to lot area, lot width, and lot frontage. The previous 24 by 36 house encroached upon both front and side yard setbacks, however, was destroyed by fire several years ago. The applicant now seeks to construct a 29 by 50 single-family house on the property. The new single-family dwelling will meet or exceed all setback requirements. The existing shed in the rear yard is to remain. I recommends favorably sent to the ZBA.
Each one of those elements that you, that were listed as you read through it would have triggered a special permit approval if anything was to happen on the property anyway, so it's kind of like everything needs it. There was a existing non-conforming lot when the place was built, so.
Yeah, it appears that the nonconformances are no worse than what they were before, and I'm sure with this lot location, these were predated zoning by
Right.
a considerable margin.
Well, the building will be larger, but it complies with all setbacks.
Right.
So even that in itself nowadays apparently triggers special permit, so this should cover it.
Questions from the board, comments? Hearing not, pleasure of the board.
Make a motion, we send a favorable recommendation.
Motion by Bates, send a favorable recommendation to the ZBA. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Ted. Any further discussion? Hearing not. All those in favor of sending a favorable to the ZBA will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? It's unanimous at 5. Continued discussion on the possible IA to BP rezoning area south of Central Street. This is, I guess for clarity, we'll refer to it as the Archer Rubber parcel, although the rezoning does encompass more parcels than just Archer Rubber, but that's the area that we're talking about.
Thanks to Liz, we have some legible maps for a change. Compared to what I had before, the cartoon version. But obviously, as they're labeled, one is the existing zoning, the one with most of the purple, and the one with the smaller VP zone is what's proposed, and it shows how the amendment would eliminate the IA zone in that stretch of Charles River, but bring the adjacent residential zones in to replace it. And in effect, the RA and the RB would meet at the tracks. That area from central south that's being changed is about 85 acres. Of course, some of that is street right-of-way, but nonetheless, that's the approximate acreage of the parcels involved.
Do we have any clue as to how much is actually buildable down there?
Yeah, where?
In which, yeah.
In that IA zone that we're changing, I mean, the ones that run along, I mean, I know that area flattens out in the Charles River, the wetlands and stuff back there is pretty significant, my recollection.
Yeah, it is, and the town owns much of it. Either what we'd had previously off of off of Charles River Street, the back of Charles Street and River Street and Charles River Street. And then with the water company acquisition, we now own the rest of that, going down to the remaining IB zone. So it goes down and includes the Godfrey Brook well fields. So that huge parcel there that runs from the jagged area over to the past the river, that's a town parcel. That was one of the water company parcels. So most of it's town-owned, and what isn't is either in wetlands or floodplain or both. So there's hardly anything developable down there
For new development.
for new development.
This is, so, and that's the intention here is to, correct me if I'm wrong, but is to change the zoning so that basically any redevelopment in that area we would start to move away from the industrial, because that's not where it belongs.
Right.
But yeah, there's no.
Yeah, there isn't, but I'm saying there isn't a whole hell of a lot there to begin with. I mean, I think in terms of the possibility over however many years, the change, I mean, even the Archer rubber parcel is significantly constrained by the river itself, so it bisects that parcel and really makes it very tough to do anything in that parcel. But, if somebody were redeveloping, it's really along Depot Street. If they ever collaborated, the house is along Depot Street, and then whatever is left of the Archer parcel is the biggest development potential out of this. Going to the, changing it to the BP zoning sort of helps a little bit in terms of those houses and maybe getting there slowly.
Right.
And I think the Charles River Street, like when you get down in those are very industrial developed areas, even though they're not big industrial parcels. So I think, cleaning that up would be, from an environmental standpoint, would be a huge improvement.
Yep.
Yeah, and not every use that's down there now that is commercial or industrial would need to stay in an IA zone. But either way, putting it in a BP zone is clearly going to discourage new industrial uses going in there. So.
The only active one down there is with what's his name? The auto repair place.
AutoGo.
Not AutoZone, what's that?
AutoGo.
Go. Yep, at the end of Charles
At the
River
end of
Street.
Charles River Street.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, the rest of them just
More storage.
more storage, right?
Well, you've still got, you've got, community is still sending ambulances out of their section down further, so they still
Yes.
come out of there. But yeah, that area could get redeveloped and probably appropriately, to a BP zone. It's not a bad idea. We have to schedule a public hearing for this, correct, Larry?
Well, we'll be doing that coming up. Let me see. Now that we did get the remand from
Board of Selectmen.
from the select board, yep. So, yeah, I'll be sending out the legal notice next Tuesday morning for a public hearing on October 3rd. And then that gives us plenty of time, because town meeting now is the 30th of October. For a while, we were toying with the 23rd, but they moved it out to the 30th. So we'll have the public hearing date of the 3rd, and then if for some reason we need to continue the public hearing, we'll still have the October 17th meeting to continue it to. I don't expect you'll have to, but I always try to schedule your meetings out one extra one ahead of town meeting, just in case you need that extra meeting date.
Yep.
So October 3rd should be the hearing, and I'll send it out, I'll send the notice in on the 12th. So it'll be published on the 19th and the 26th of this month.
Did you say that John had sent us a letter?
Not on this.
Okay.
On the, you asked him to review or take a look at the scope on the plan.
Okay.
That's it.
I was just wondering in terms of what the outcome, because I know there was the meeting between him and the owners of the Archer Rubber property. I was just wondering if there was any feedback from them.
Yeah, I don't think he really got to an owner. He's made some further contacts, and he's talked to DEP and got some additional information, so I'm not sure that's going anywhere very fast. But, in terms of his position, he supports the proposal, obviously, to make the change.
Yeah, that was kind of my question as well. What's the plan from the landowner?
The landowner wants to sell it.
Okay.
So it doesn't appear to necessarily want to figure out how to clean it up so he can sell it. So they're difficult to.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult parcel
Yeah,
to
it's going to
sell
be difficult no matter what.
with the Rivers Act on that, right?
Yep. Well, I don't know that DEP's necessarily happy with them either, because they hadn't been keeping up with the testing they were supposed to have been doing, so.
Yeah, so because it's already disturbed riverfront, there's a relative amount of latitude with that. Any sort of restoration that they do would be considered a
plus.
a plus. But I definitely think that the contamination side of it is without question, the bigger concern for any property.
Yeah, I lived my first 7 years of my life down by there. I used to get the smell every morning.
Good work there, Joe.
No, I was only 7. I used to live on Depot Street. My grandmother lived down there until they passed away, though. She was on Beach Street Extension, so you either got Mazzarelli's or you got Acharubba, one of the two.
I'll have Mazzarelli's. I'll take Mazzarelli's, thank you.
Joe Arcudi says it didn't bother anybody.
All right, so this will be coming back to us. If there's any other, obviously, we'll have a public hearing. We'll have to make a recommendation to town meeting.
Yep, and there'll probably be a couple of tweaks in the text of the article. We're still going through it to make sure that we're covering all of the parcels necessary, and at the same time covering them only once. Instead, I've got them the same one in there a couple of times, so we'll get that cleaned up by the time we get to hearing.
As part of this, I incorporated the parcels into the zoning map, and so it's a lot easier to, and this is partly because of GIS, but it's easier for us to know where a parcel is currently split by zoning, and we can remove that inconsistency, I guess, just to make everybody's life easier.
Last thing on the agenda is the continuing review of the comprehensive plan scope of services. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look through. Larry handed that out to us the last time.
I kind of went over it. I didn't see anything that,
Yeah, I didn't see anything in terms of, that I had, up front. Obviously, as they get involved and move forward, we can tweak this to a certain extent. They are easy to work with in that sense, but I thought as a beginning document, it addressed areas that we wanted to have addressed. What the other members of the board, their feelings on it are.
John did comment.
John did
as you asked
comment
him.
on, yeah.
He wasn't able to be here, so we apologize, but did do the memo.
Yeah, he talks about the downtown area. I think, in our discussions with them, they were aware of that. I mean, I think we need to, we can concentrate that as we move forward, but I think we need to be fair to everybody in terms of development and make sure that everything is addressed, but we can certainly head them in that direction once we get involved.
As you and I talked on the phone earlier, about having at least a couple of their team come in and meet the board probably after town meetings. So.
Yeah, I talked to Larry about having somebody coming in from MAPC to speak to us, but I thought it would be best if we just held that off to the first meeting in November, see if they're available then, only because that will, at that point in time, we will have gone to town meeting, had funding. Should be full speed ahead at that point in terms of getting them going, and as one of their first meetings, I thought it would be appropriate to come in and give a general presentation to the board and have some level of a meet and greet, shall we say. So that was my plan on that. I didn't think it was worthwhile to have them come in before then, as that we had. Next meeting, I won't be here, and then we have the, we're going to have to do the town meeting warrant article that we just spoke about in terms of the zoning, and I didn't want them coming in on that night. So I thought it would be appropriate to do it in November. So that's the
You and
current
I are
plan.
probably going to have to hit the FinCom again
Yeah,
before town meeting, so.
yeah.
The downtown, I don't see a big problem. When I first got on this board,
I know.
the downtown was a ghost town. And right now,
I know where you're coming from, babe. I think there needs to be, to me, there needs to be a, the owners downtown can't expect the town to do much if they're not willing to do stuff on their own. I think there needs to be, there needs to be some level of funding and money that's put in if they expect something better down there to a certain extent. I think it's got to be a partnership from everybody. There can't be an expectation. We've tried to do changes to zoning to the level that we're able to, but at the end of the day, us changing zoning doesn't change what anybody does if they're not willing to invest in the downtown. And I'll say something else. I mean, I see these articles, oh, another church, another this. I go by every one of the churches that are down there, and all the buildings look pretty nice to me. They keep them up. They're in good shape. There's a sign on the front of them, so what if it's a church? And to be honest, it allows us and allows other businesses that are down there to function much easier than if they were businesses, because, we've talked about parking decks and all that. If those places were all businesses, I don't think that we could put a deck down there that would be big enough to be able to provide that. But having a church down there that meets on a Thursday night or a Sunday morning, when no one else is down there, really spreads out the parking and makes the usages much easier to deal with. So I agree with you. I'm not sure that there's a whole lot, and to me, it's going to have to be something that certainly we can talk to MAPC about it, but it needs to be bought in by the owners down there as well as the town to a certain extent.
I mean, the ultimate thing would be a parking garage down there. But I don't think the cost of a parking garage is worth
Right.
what you're going to get out of it.
Right. Well, I mean, the problem that the town of Milford has to a certain extent, to me, looking at it is, again, the availability of space to put a parking garage in is severely limited. And, to put it in that location, how many of those businesses would that parking garage then impact or affect? I don't think it impacts enough. Certain people are going to get a huge impact on it, and other people aren't going to see a damn thing out of it. And is that totally fair for the town to spend that kind of money to do that? I don't know. I tend not to think so, but, those are the things that the Downtown Revitalization Committee and the people downtown need to address, because, I'm not one that's going to recommend the town spend a lot of money for a small amount of people. It's got to help everybody.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there are already over 700 parking spaces down there.
And that's the other
Just
thing.
in the CA zone.
Yeah. It isn't that the town hasn't done a significant amount.
Right, and back a while back, I was on the Downtown Revitalization Committee, and Kevin Meehan had spent the money and put free parking signs up everywhere with directional signs showing everybody where it is.
yeah.
And they still weren't used. I mean, the people want to get out,
Yeah, they want to get out right in front.
they want to get out in front, and they...
They can't because the business owners are parking in front of their own.
They want to get out and go to work, right.
No, I mean, those are certainly issues, and it's something that I think we can certainly discuss with MAPC as part of the conversation that they need to have with John, as he's going to be the person that heads it up for the town of Milford, that needs to get worked through. It's to me, any changes, it's got to be a two-way street, but those are discussions we can have. In terms of the scope, though, and just looking at that, I was comfortable with where we were, and like I said, I think we deal with.
You know what, the money that was being spent before with the grants, they put restrictions on it that was ridiculous. You had to use their contractors that they did, and the contractors were we're way overpriced from what a competitive contractor was to do the same job. And it's, if you're gonna do that, now you're not using your money to the fullest.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, these people are their owners, they should be able to spend, if you're giving them a grant, they should be able to spend it with the contractors that they're happy with and friendly with.
And I'm not sure that, to me, I mean, we've always defined downtown either from here, from North Bow Street to Congress Street, South Main Street intersection. I'm not sure that it doesn't warrant looking and providing for people that, go to the Sacred Heart Church or even now along the whole corridor until you get to 16109 is part of considering a downtown in terms of what you're looking at and what you're trying to do. I think all of those areas are, to me, are critical in making it downtown. It shouldn't just be this area. And again, I'm not sure that area that we're talking about is all that bad.
No.
Well, it kind of depended on which group and what the membership was of the group at the time as to what they considered downtown.
Yeah.
So it was always fluid. The core of it was always the CA zone, but, the ears of it or each end of it, extended or not, depending upon the membership, so to speak. So it was never set in stone what downtown was. So that wasn't
Yeah.
helpful.
I mean, I think it's, while when we're talking about providing assistance, I think we need to be cognizant of where that assistance should go and where it should end or not end. And I think.
Well, that's why I think
that's what-
MAPC's involvement and the way they've addressed it in the scope is that you'll have different teams focusing on different elements of the plan. And they'll be having multiple scoping sessions with, in some instances, the same group again, but it'll be a different combination of the consultants because they're now on a different element of the plan. They're going back and asking them again. So I think, MAPC's scoping sessions will help quite a bit. And then when they put it all back together, it'll be a better outcome for us in terms of recommendations, and it might hopefully begin to get at what really ought to be considered downtown these days or not. So, I'm hopeful that the plan process will work, so.
Anyone else have any other comments on it?
I think the scope is very good. I think this is a great start, and I'm looking forward to doing whatever we can to help them out.
Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Dave, do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Joe. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of adjourning will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous at 5. Funny, I've never heard that not be unanimous.